BBC have made the dreaded announcement that they're going to stop broadcasting BBC Radio 4 on the longwave band. This ends a long history of the BBC broadcasting on the longwave band. Originally from Daventry, known as 5XX, way back in 1925, I think it was July 1925, they started broadcast. And then they moved to Droitwich, and it's a 100-year history plus that the BBC have been broadcasting a long wave. And sadly, if you've got a vintage radio like I have, or plenty of them, you can see behind me, you press the long wave band and tune into Radio 4 and it won't be there. And that's a big thing. And I know it's an announcement, many people have already discussed this, but the view I'm taking in this video is what's going to happen to the vintage wireless sets that many people use as a hobby, collect, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there still use old radios to listen to Radio 4. You know, what's the point? If it isn't broke, don't fix it, don't throw it away, just keep using it. So what's going to happen to these radios? Where are they going to end up? Are there going to be a lot of cheap radios on eBay? Are they going to end up in the skip? Or are they going to end up in the loft? Now, when I think of radio, and like the radios behind me, the Bush TR82s, I'll chat about them more in a bit. You know, they were born in the early 60s. One of the sets behind me is 1959. Somebody's bought those, you know, a lot of money, took it home, pride and joy, feature place in the house, in the lounge or in the kitchen, and listened to many iconic tunes on those radios. And obviously as time progressed and technology progressed, FM band came in, people have moved on, bought new sets, and these sets, a lot of people, I think, because they cost so much, either put them in a cupboard or put them in the loft. And then many years later, people have discovered them, took them to car boots, sold them in the car boots. People like myself have bought them, cleaned them all up, renovated them, excuse me. People have done the electronics on them and kept them going and enjoyed them. But sadly, BBC Radio 4 going, and a lot of the stations that are on medium wave are vanishing. They have less of a purpose. They become more of an object sat on the shelf rather than something that you still functionally use. It's a bit like having a classic car and then finding out that you can no longer buy petrol for it. You know, it just becomes an ornament in your garage. There are ways around it, and I'm sure there'll be ways around keeping classic cars going when that situation comes along. With these radios, you can buy yourself a little AM transmitter, and then you can broadcast your own programs, or you know, from your phone you can connect Bluetooth your little AM transmitter and keep it going that way. The batteries on these radios, PP9s, a lot of them use, they've been discontinued, but there again, you can work your way around it and keep them going. So the focus of my video is what's going to happen to these radios. Are they going to be skipped again? Are they going to go back in the attic for another generation to discover and, you know, fall in love with them again? What's the future? Are they? It's very sad to think of something that's, you know, 50, 60-year-old radios that have survived this long, all of a sudden are going to have no use. So I just wanted to have your views on where the hobby ends, what you think is going to happen to these radios, and how we get around so many things that are impacting the hobby. And going back to the classic cars, that's the same situation there. I think there's so much legislation out now against cars, electric cars coming in, and you know, there will come a point where it's going to be hard to get petrol. The age demographic who collect these cars, pre-war cars, are now losing value quite a lot, as the people who originally collected them have lost interest, or they've got older, or they've moved on to other places. And the younger generation, no connection with them, or they don't have the skills to keep them on the road, so the values fall, very much like the radios behind me. So the two radios you can see behind me came from the British Vintage Wireless Society meeting in Golborne, which I recently attended in April. I went there with the view I ain't going to buy any more radios. I've got plenty of them. My wife's tripping over them, but I bought some shirt pocket radios and I thought I was doing well. You know, they're not going to take up much space. And towards the end of the day, I had a quick scurry around and I saw these Bush TR82s sitting there on the table, very dirty and unloved. I just had to ask, you know, how much they are, thinking he's going to say a price and I'm just going to turn around and no thank you. But he said, you can have them both for £1 each. I thought, £1 each? I said, well, I said to him, I can't resist that. So I quickly got £2 out of my pocket and the radios were taken and they came home with me. Now they're very dirty. They clearly have been in storage for a long time and I didn't know what to expect of them, but at that kind of price I thought I can at least clean them up, and if no other use I can put them in a charity shop or hand them on somewhere and somebody may use, give them a chance. So anyhow, connected the battery up to them both and both of them burst into life, long wave, medium wave, perfectly. Although looking very grubby, I thought, well, I can't abandon those, can I? So I thought, yeah, I'll give them a good clean and look after them and make use of them. So basically I've done that with one of them. The other one I've kind of tea-cutted, but I still need to finish off cleaning it up. And what I'm going to do in a minute is turn the camera around and we'll look at the radios and discuss them and briefly discuss the TR82. My love for radio started in the 60s. My dad had a Bush TR103, which his grandparents bought him. My grandparents bought for him, his parents. And that sort of seeded my interest in radio. And I still have Dad's radio, and Dad's nearly 94 now. And he handed it to me to look after. And I also have another Bush TR103 in mint condition. So basically they look very similar to the radios behind, but they have VHF. So yeah, we can still tune into FM on those and enjoy some of the stations. So yeah, I just like your view really, where the hobby goes, what's going to happen to these radios, and yeah, so I'll turn the camera around and we'll look at these two radios behind me. Okay, so here we have my two £1 radios that I've just recently mentioned. And as you can see now, they don't look too bad. They were a lot worse condition when I bought them. Now this one here with the milky dial, I've still got work to do on this. It's had a polish, but it needs stripping and everything needs washing down with soap and water, and then a bit of autoclean polish to improve the finish of it. This one I've actually cleaned, polished, and it's looking an awful lot better than it did when it arrived. It's not perfect, but it's lived a life, so it's condition wise it will still show some wear and tear. Now an important thing on these sets is the plastic cases are prone to damage on the sides. This one, as you can see there at the bottom, and it's when you unscrew the back, there's a screw there, the whole back comes off, and when you put them back in, there's a lip in the back that needs to sit inside the radio, and if you're not careful and you're forced to screw and the lip's not in, you can actually crack and damage the cases, which tends to happen. So we'll switch both these on, have a listen to them, and then we'll have a little look inside. So the dial on this one's not too bad. The dial on that one's quite milky, so I'm hunting for a new dial for that. But the whole idea of this was that I thought I just need to save them, get them looking a lot better and get them running, and then they'll stay in my collection for a while, I suppose, but probably at some time I'd have to find a new home for them. I've got quite a few of them. Which look a bit, the one there is in much better condition, and that's the 1959 one, quite an early one. And the other problem when you start this sort of thing is you need parts. So like I say, I wanted the tuning dial for this one, and I did actually pick another radio up on eBay. I think it wasn't too expensive, it was under £20, which had a better dial, but when it arrived I noticed the number, and it's 1300 and something in production, and it's got a capacitor indicating May 1959, so it's a very early set, so no way can I break that up. So that one's missing the little brass cap off here, so I need to get hold of one of them now, so I need another radio for spares. So the initial outlay of £2, £1 each for these sets, will tally up as I try and get a radio for spares. That isn't too good enough to break up. Now the one I mentioned from 1959 doesn't work, but with its low number, and there's no point in making it work really, it's best to keep it all original, with it being such an early set and with very little being on medium wave and long wave. I don't really see the point in interfering with it, so I'm going to keep that as original as possible. So we'll just now have a look at, well, I'll switch them on both on first. I think it's the best way to start. So this one is on Manx radio, and let's just knock the music off. Unfortunately we can't have the music because of copyright, but it's Manx radio on 1368 medium wave, and then you get the
weird thing, the funny thing, the curious thing I've got with Dave Allen, over and above the those situations, I really start to feel for the people and for their families. I hadn't had time.
And that's about it for me on medium wave. Long wave button there, which is soon to be redundant, unfortunately. You should get BBC Radio 4.
Had been hotly anticipated in Weimar. Since his release from prison, he'd been busy rebuilding his splintered movement under the auspices of the Nazi Party. The austere World War I general Erich Ludendorff had failed to galvanize warring nationalist factions. Unable to seize power by revolutionary means, Hitler decided it was time to try a different strategy: getting elected. For this, he needed a local party infrastructure, so he divided the country into administrative units called Gau.
As you can hear there, it sounds quite nice. You get that interference on the long wave, like medium wave, but the tone of the radio is very nice. You have tone control here on the right, on-off switch, and the volume there. These sets went through a period of development over the years, different things you would notice depending on what year this set you bought is. They changed the transistors, they put an earphone at the side, which these don't have. I'll switch the other one on and then we'll look inside them. So another thing I've noticed, I've got a few of these, the cases, the colour of the plastics seem to vary. Now whether it's sunlight and the conditions they've been kept in, or that was the case when they came out of the factory and they've just darkened at different paces, I don't know. But again, this is not too bad condition. It's got a little nick at the bottom somewhere, just there, and it does need cleaning. It's still not been finished. I just give it a quick tea-cut. You can see the polish remains in it at the moment, which need cleaning out of it, but there's much more of a shine. And the back's not too bad on this one. It's just a little nick there, but it looks like somebody's glued it back on at some time. So we'll switch this one on, and we're on the long wave at the moment.
Hitler appealed to the movement to look to the future and unite. Baldur listened to the sound of Hitler's voice. It was deep and raw, resonant like a cello. But it took an hour before Hitler even earned his first applause, Baldur recalled. Hitler needed a break.
So again, you can hear a nice tone that comes out the radio. You know, I can't remember which one was. One's 1959 and one's 1961. We'll have a look at that when we look inside. And we'll have a look at the serial numbers. So we'll just take the backs off now. Okay, so the set we're looking at now is the one I've actually had the innards out and cleaned it. And this one has not yet been taken apart, so you can see it's still quite dirty inside, but I'll clean all that up And the other interesting things which dating these is if you look at this capacitor here, if I can focus in, put the light on it. You can see it there, November 1959. So that gives you a rough idea of the date. So if it's November 1959, I would imagine the capacitor was installed on the radio close to Christmas time. Maybe it was a Christmas present for somebody. Maybe it was sold in 1960, but it's a very early set. I'll just have a look at the serial number if we can get to that. So there we are. I can't focus it there. It's quite early number, 13465, I think. My eyes, the light's catching it. So it's quite early in production. And the other thing I mentioned is these batteries. So like that one, the ever ready silver seal silver batteries are now discontinued. So what I've done is I use the actual battery case. Probably better use it actually on this one because it's got a little elastic band on it. Take the battery out. I had to put a connector on this one because the connectors were missing. So it's basically the original battery which I've hollowed out. I have to do this with one hand. Just hang a minute while I pause and take the end. Okay, so you can see the battery holder. I've just wrapped some pipe insulation or any type of foam like that around it, and there's the battery holder. The 6 AA 1.5 volt batteries, and I've just simply soldered the holder onto the terminals of the battery cap, and that's how I've got round it. So looking at this one, let's see the dates. Yeah, June 1961. So this is a later set, but it's still early in production, seeing as they started around the summer of '59. Again, it's all original. It's not been touched in any way, same as this set. It's quite remarkable. They're still doing what they were doing when they were first manufactured. So you've got to take great care when you're putting the backs on these radios. So here's the back of this set, and you see the large brass screw in the centre, and you've just got to be careful as it sits inside the radio, the lip on the back of the case. So I tend to just roughly align it and start the screw, just a few threads, and then carefully push the back into the radio and then tighten the screw up. Very difficult for me to do with one hand, so I'll fix the back of it now. Before I put the back on this one, another important point to make on these radios is they've got the large heavy metal chassis. It's not a printed circuit, it's point-to-point component wiring. So very, very well made, but being heavy in a plastic case, it doesn't respond well to shock. So if these radios get dropped for any reason, they tend to break the mounting. So this one here, you can see the mounting at the top is missing a screw. So that's another one. That one there, you can see the screw, and it's screwed in. So there's a clip, metal clip that sits over the plastic mounting, and then the screw screws into it like a spire clip. And then there's some more, there's another one down there, and there's another one behind the label here. So there's 4 screws, one's missing. It's still secure on this one. I could do with getting a metal clip for it and gluing it on with some aldite or something and making it secure. So you'll tend to notice if it's dropped, if you're looking at one on eBay, the actual tuning dial won't be centre, it'll be down here, and the actual knobs on the top are sort of dropped inside the case. So it's one way of looking, if you can't see inside the radio, to know if that's happened to it. As I previously mentioned when I did the introduction to this video, the radio that started my passion for vintage radios and collecting, and especially the Bush series that you're looking here, is this one here. It's my father's. It's a Bush TR82, and it's the VHF model. So talking about the long wave and medium wave sort of vanishing stations, we can still get quite a few stations on the VHF band, FM. And so these radios are still useful. You can see it's got the telescopic aerial here with the little red pit on top. Now they go missing, and the one on this one went missing. But my dad, on clearing his loft out, found it in a matchbox, so I reattached it to the radio. Now this hasn't been restored, it's all original, it doesn't work anymore really, but it wears its past. This is so iconic to me. It's been in my family. My dad's now nearly 94, and he gave me this to look after, and it's irreplaceable, isn't it? Something like this. So it's an average condition. It probably will clean up, but that's wiping off my history, isn't it? I just like it as it is with its patina. So just to give you an example of a Bush radio in pretty mint condition, might be a little bit dusty, I've just brought it in, but if you pan back you can see the difference. Now this radio is almost pristine, and one of the big things you notice is the tuning dial. Look how that looks. It's amazing, isn't it? It's not been exposed to the sunshine. And this radio does work. I haven't got a battery in it at the moment, but this does work on all bands. And yeah, I'm very pleased to own this, because this is more than like how my father's radio looked when it was brand new. I think he had it about 1964, and my grandparents had bought it for him. He'd lost his eyesight in an accident at work, and the radio was his best companion, and most of the time it was tuned into the police on the VHF band, which they could pick them up. And I always remember the police over and out and Roger and all that. Well, my father's called Roger, so I always thought they were talking to me, talking to my dad. Yeah, so very iconic, a great series of radios, and let's cling on to these things, keep them in the best condition we can, regardless of the value, because they've all told a story, they've all lived a life, they've gone through the generations, they've been in the attic, they've been pulled out the attic, you know, they've been sold, they've been car boots, they've been everywhere, haven't they? As they've been handed through different people. But obviously this one is one family owned, and hopefully it will stay that way. So yeah, I'd appreciate your comments, what you think of these radios, what the future is for radios like these, and thank you for tuning in and watching my video. Cheerio now.